You're listening to the Basketball Lab podcast with your hosts Mark Shannon, Mark Clark, and Marco Corona. They'll discuss all the top news and stories from around the basketball world while giving their opinion and insight. Now, here are your hosts.
Welcome back to another episode of the Basketball Lab podcast. I'm your host, Mark Shannon, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Marco Corona. Our boy Mark Clark is not here today, but you know, the show goes on, and we have some basketball news. There's stuff to talk about. You know, Raptors.
He's on load management.
Exactly. You know, load management.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a back-to-back, so he needed a day off. But no, like there's so much to talk about. You know, the Raptors are doing well. The national anthem, it's been a big hoopla over the last few days. Like the Nets, like the Brooklyn Nets, I don't even know if they know if they're coming or going. They're playing so bad out there, and we'll get into the excuses from Mr. Kyrie and what he got to talk about later. But I first want to talk about the Raptors. I mean, a couple weeks ago we talked about it, and you know, Raptor Nation, we the North Nation, I guess you can say, was up in arms that the Raptors were doing so bad. They weren't even, you know, they were near second from the bottom in the East. Right. And now they're one game below 500. In fifth, there's a sixth spot in the Eastern Conference right now. So they're in a playoff spot, one game below 500, and they're getting better scoring. I mean, and we've said it before, Toronto fans jump the gun and they get down the team's throat like right away. They don't give them time, and we said it before, and I'm going to say it again. It was a quick turnaround, no training camp, very little preseason games. Everything's got to come around and fit into the style, right? So, I mean, you look at it. They were good defensively to start off the season, but they weren't hitting shots. Over the last few weeks, the defense has still been there, but they've hit shots. They're getting scoring and stuff like that. So, I don't know. Like, what do you think, like, so far, the Raptors and them coming back and then turning around the season, so to speak?
Right. Like, are we talking about a team that's going to be, you know, competing with the Lakers? Likely not. No. Right. But we talked about it, and I preached, and I'm going to take a little credit for this. I preached patience, and I said, let's get this team to 500 first. Even before you start talking about adding anybody or trading anybody away, we can maybe touch on that in a little bit. But you can't evaluate a team until you know exactly what you got. And based on all those factors that you listed, COVID, quick turnaround, you know, rescheduling games, injuries, et cetera, and the Raptors have had their share of injuries as well. Let's not forget, OG was out or still out as we speak, actually. Lowry missed a few games. Pascal missed a few games. Norm Powell missed a few games as well. And yes, I know all teams have injuries to deal with, and everybody's dealing with crap this year, right? This is not your normal year, but they're right there. Yeah. In spite of we the panic, you talk about we the North, we the panic, in spite of the 2-8 start, they are 12-13 as we speak today, depending on what happens with the matchup against the green people over there in Boston, right? So they're right there. They're right there. So they just got to, you know, hold the fort, just sort of just batten the hatches and sort of just stay there. And I think that even if they can make it through the first half of their schedule, which we know now is going to be a full schedule in Florida, and they're not coming back to Toronto. If they can finish the schedule at 500 or close to or above, which would be a complete bonus, you're good. Then I'm sure that Masai and Bobby can say, okay, this is what we have, this is what we don't have. There's an obvious hole in this team in the 5 spot that they, unfortunately, we were talking about this before we recorded, right? About how Aaron Baines has not been that valuable pickup. And I'm not talking about his contract and all that stuff. It doesn't matter, right? We thought as outsiders, as basketball fans, that he was going to be an actual solid pickup because in spite of what we're seeing, he's actually not a bad player.
No.
Basically, right? He's having a bad year. This is a decent player who's having a really bad year. So because he's not elite, now he's basically below average. And they're not getting any production out of the 5, the true 5 spot. And I know Boucher is doing his thing from Aaron Baines. And in spite of that, they are right there, a game under 500. So I think that's, and I think my preseason prediction was the Raptors are going to be 6. I'll have to check on that, but they're right there. I think that they are exactly where we thought they were going to be, and a lot of teams are struggling as well, right? So, yeah, shout out to them and for just keeping their head near or above water. Yeah, considering everything that's happened this year.
Yeah, and I said it and I brought it up there in the beginning. Like defensively, I think they've gotten a lot better. They've battened down the hatches in a sense. They've held players. They're holding the star players to like lower point totals, not allowing them to get easy shots. Other than that, the Trae Young Atlanta game, that was the only game where it was a little blip in the radar. But I mean, you look at last night, the last night against the Wizards, they held Bradley Beal to 24 points on 8 of 20 shooting.
Yep.
You go back to the Memphis Grizzlies game, and they held Ja Morant to 18 points on 8 of 17 shooting, right? And then you go back to the Brooklyn Nets game. They held both of Harden and Kyrie Irving to 15 and 17 points combined. That's good defense. You're not allowing them to get easy shots. You're not allowing them to score the basket. I mean, we're talking about them playing the Boston Celtics tonight, and 3-point shooting and 3-point defense has always been a sort of an Achilles heel for the Raptors. Always been an Achilles heel. We know
perimeter defense is awful.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Just say it. Don't be kind. It's awful.
It's absolutely, yeah. No, 100%. They're down by 10 right now. They've given up 12 3-pointers already in this game on 20 shots. Good for 60% from 3, and you can't allow that. And that was the same thing that killed them in the playoffs last year, was the 3-point shooting of the Boston Celtics. They're long players. They got length, but they've got ability to stretch the floor and shoot the ball from 3.
They're also obnoxious.
Well, for sure, absolutely. I mean, they're the Boston Celtics. They got goddamn Marcus Smart on the team. Even though he's not playing, but you got.
I'm sure he's flopping somewhere.
Exactly, Kemba Walker. I mean, I don't know.
He's still on the team?
Yeah, but we're talking about the Raptors. But you mentioned it the other day to me. He gets a pass. Like, he's gotten a pass this season. Yes, I know he started off the season injured, but I mean, he's come back and absolutely done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing.
If you really think about it, he actually hasn't really done anything since he's come over to Boston.
Yeah.
Like, the guy that they thought they got in that trade, to me, in my opinion, and the reason I'm a little bit maybe over biased, and maybe I'll let you take over this one, is, everybody usually, there's a comparison. Pascal doesn't do this, or this player doesn't do this based on how much they make. But somehow, some way, Kemba Walker gets a pass. And look it up. I don't think he's even averaging 15 points a game. For a guy who is in his caliber, because let's face it, guys, like, he's a really good player, right? He basically was the Charlotte Hornets. But now he's come over, and basically, I don't understand. There's supposed to be a big 3, and it's been pretty much a big 2.5.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, he's averaging 15 points a game this season. In his last 3 games, he's put up, 31 points in his last 3 games. Like,
come on, man.
You're the star point guard on your team. The Boston Celtics can't rely on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown to do all the dirty work. Marcus Smart's not there. He's hurt right now, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, they were expecting to get an all-star level player, and they've gotten a more mediocre level player in a sense. They're not getting the guy that they got, that they thought they were getting. And they gave up Terry Rozier. They let him go, and they signed Kemba Walker,
who's a dog. Rozier's a dog.
Exactly. And like, that's the thing. And I've said it before and to other people. Terry Rozier, like, he fits that Boston Celtic mold. Like, and I don't know why they let him go. Like, he fits that mold. He fits the hard, physical, tough player. And that's what that team is in a sense. Yeah, Marcus Smart flops. He does all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he's probably arguably one of the best defenders in the league. And I don't think there's any questioning that. He is a really good defender. Yeah. He's going to get in your face. He's going to get on you, all that stuff. Jason Tatum's got length. Jaylen Brown's got length. Dominic Tice is a physical guy. There's a lot of guys on that team that are physical guys, and they fit that Boston Celtic mold. Kemba Walker doesn't fit that mold. He's often injured. He's hasn't, like I said, he came to Boston. He got injured. He wasn't that. He's been injured last season. Wasn't the same player. He wasn't the same player in the playoffs. This season, he started out the season injured. He's come back. He's had a couple good games here and there, but like I said, 31 points over the last 3 games. That's not going to cut it. Boston Celtics look like they're going the other way. The Raptors are going the other way. They're climbing the standings. The Boston Celtics are falling down. You know what?
It's funny. Sorry to cut you off. It's funny
if
the Raptors sort of pulled this off, and I know it's, as we record this, they were down by 10 or 8 or whatever the case is, and the Raptors and Boston Celtics would have exactly the same record after all the hype this beginning of the season about the Celtics being a top 3 team, even a top 5 team in the league. Never mind a top 3 team in the East. The Raptors and the Boston Celtics are going to have pretty much exactly the same record, or if not equal to, if the Raptors can complete a comeback and win. Again, this is just going back to our initial conversation, or the start of this particular conversation. You can't react to a start of the season based on what your team is, right?
Yeah.
So, and things sort of even out, right? The New York Knicks were as hot as you can get in the beginning of the season. The Knicks are on the outside looking in right now. The Knicks are who they should be, right? The Knicks were never who they were before, right? So again, it's this league is driven by talent and by defense and by 3-point shooting. And when you're hot, you're hot. And when you're not, then you get the Knicks, right?
Well,
and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the Knicks. I think they're actually having a very good year, and I think they're actually overachieving. And let's see what the Derrick Rose addition does to that. By the way, I don't get that. But anyways, well, it's a Thibodeau thing. I think that's what I get from that, right? But we'll see what happens with them. Like, anything's possible.
Well, and that's the thing. You look at it in terms of how the standings started out. You know, the Pacers were up there, the Hawks were up there, the Bulls, the Magic, the Cavaliers, the Knicks.
Yeah.
And the Knicks, the Bulls, the Cavaliers, the Magic are all out of the playoffs right now. And that's what I
Right.
said when it come back to, you know, you got to give it time. It takes time for things to come around, especially when you're talking about teams that haven't had that much of a break, like teams like the Magic, the Cavaliers, the Bulls had last season. They were able to get that extra break because they weren't playing due to COVID, and the other teams were in the bubble playing, right? So they got the extra break. So they started out a little bit hotter.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. And you mentioned it. I'm going to go back to something else here, just in terms of that center position. That center position, man. Aaron Baines is like, I mean, he's not doing too bad today. You know, he's got 6 points, 3 of 5 shooting, but the Raptors need more from their center spot. I mean, you can't. They're getting out rebounded in almost every single game, and you can't have that. Aaron Baines is supposed to be a physical guy,
right?
And he's being less than physical.
He's not giving you that. He's lost his confidence.
100%. And you know, like at the end of the day, losing confidence is not a bad thing. But I mean, he's average. He's a minus player every game.
Yeah.
You know, he's not playing up to the level that we saw with Phoenix last season. I think the Raptors, if they get into a playoff spot, they stay where they are, or they whatever. And we mentioned this a couple weeks ago. They get to 500. It's a different. You know, you're talking about a different ball game here. The Eastern Conference is an easy conference. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's an easier conference to get into the playoffs. You don't need to be 10 games above 500 or 15 games above 500 to get a good spot. You only need to be relatively 500, maybe a couple games above 500 to get a sixth spot or a 5th spot.
There'll be 2 or 3 teams that will be under 500 in the East. I can guarantee that will get into the playoffs.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, Masai and Bobby Webster are going to have some tinkering to do. They're going to have to if they want to make a run in the playoffs. And I mentioned this guy's name before, and I think the Raptors have to go out and get him.
See that? You see what I'm doing?
Exactly. Drum roll, please. Andre Drummond.
Yeah.
That he fits the exact mode the Toronto Raptors need.
What's the price though? What is the price for Andre Drummond?
You know, that's the thing. I know I was talking about this with my father the other day because he's
shout out to Pops, by the way.
Exactly, he's a huge Raptor fan. But I mean, you know, he
get him on the show.
No, we don't want to get him on the show.
No,
because he'll rip into the Raptors all day, every day. But no, I'm saying like in terms of we mentioned it, and that's what I said. I said I don't know what his actual market value was. The other day a report came out that his market value might be a second round pick at best. And in all honesty, I kind of agree with that. At the end of the day, he's a free agent.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, He carries a $34 million cap hit. Yes, he's an all-star. We get it.
Right.
But there's no club control. There's no like player control on that. There's no player option.
It's literally a rental.
It's literally a rental player. So like teams aren't going to go out and give. You're not getting James Harden. In a sense of like you're not getting that kind of a player where you're getting an elite level player who's got years left on his contract.
Right. And let's be clear for 1 second though. You're not paying the full 34 mil. It'll be a prorated for the remainder of the season.
Yes. Correct? Yeah, for sure. Now, but I'm just in general, like, you know, at the end of the day, you're talking about you can't go out and give up some of your best players.
Hold on. Andre Drummond's making $34 million?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's $34 million this season. I think he opted.
Are you sure that's not his jersey number?
No, well, I guess we'll see.
I know he's a good player, and I'm not here to talk about anybody's money because it is what it is, man. You get paid what you get paid, and I'm not going to hate on you, right? What does Deion Sanders say? I'm not going to talk about your money until your game is funny, right? But that's a lot of dough. That's a lot of cake.
Let me go back. Sorry, it's $28 million. Sorry, still. It's still pretty close.
Wow.
$28 million in player option.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, speaking of him, yes, he may not, you know, like, and he's been stuck on crappy teams for years.
That's true.
And he's put in his work. He's put in his time.
You know what? He's earned the 28 mil, man. Come on.
I do. I agree with you.
I take that back. At the end
of the day, you're talking about a guy that's right now this season averaging 18 and 14 on the season. Right? He's grabbing rebounds left, right, and center. He's the physical player center that the Raptors need. Imagine you were able to pick up Andre Drummond, you know, get rid of Aaron Baines, whatever you have to do. Andre Drummond starting. You have Chris Boucher coming off the bench. It's a contrast. It's a different mix, and that's what a lot of.
Or you don't trade Baines.
Yeah,
Baines goes to the bench. And then you don't necessarily have to play Boucher at the 5.
No, you're right. You can play him at the 4. Yeah.
The flexibility, and you know Nick Nurse likes to tinker with this line. The flexibility there, it is fantastic. And you take the pressure off of Baines, and then maybe that's where you get the value for Baines because he doesn't have to be that guy. Because here's the thing, right? And sorry to cut you off again. Yeah. I'm in a cutoff mood here. What is this? But I think as a fan, let's just take everything out of the equation for once. As a fan, I think that everybody was expecting Baines to come in and literally fill the shoes that Marc Gasol and or Ibaka left.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not the case. So now you're not looking at Ibaka's, you know, I think what he got last year, 14, 13 points a game.
Yeah.
You're not looking at Marc Gasol's efficiency on defense because even if he wasn't scoring, he was doing the little things as far as passing, you know, screening, you know, reading the play. He was almost like a third point guard out there. Just playing the 5, right? And he made a difference. So right now, Baines is completely struggling, and he's not doing anything that you're like, okay, well, what the heck is this guy doing out here? He's just eating up space. He's become an irrelevant space eater, right? It's like 10 minutes of trash, right? Like that. And I think he still has some value in it, right? I just don't know where they go from here. But getting a guy like Drummond in there, that's the perfect Nick Nurse guy. And Drummond doesn't need to score 18, whatever he's averaging. Like, we're fine with 15. I say we, like I'm playing, right? like you can, if you can get him to double-digit scoring in the low teens, just grab some boards, clog up the middle. With this team, the way they play,
well, and that's the thing, and they've given up. Like the center spot, like we said, is one of their other Achilles heels right now. Yeah. You know, Valanciunas ate them up for 20 rebounds the other night, 27 points.
Good for him, but damn.
Like, Clint Capella had what? I think 23 and 16. And then Vucevic, a couple nights prior to that, had what? 21 and 18. I mean, so you're giving up 20 rebounds, 18 rebounds, 16 rebounds.
Wow.
It's three guys.
In a deficit, right.
You're already killing yourself.
Unless Boucher is balling out every night like he did last night. I think he had like, what, 15 boards or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's you can't count on that every night.
Yeah, it's a huge, like, that's the thing. You're putting yourself in a hole. Like, if you're not able to get rebounds, the other team's getting either second chance opportunities or you're not getting second chance.
That's an extra possession.
Exactly. And that's that's what's killed them so far this season.
And in saying that, they are 12 and 13.
Exactly.
And that's the moral of the story.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at that in terms of it doesn't mean anything. stats don't mean anything. You look at the Portland Trailblazers, just for example, they're missing CJ McCollum and Nurkic. And what are they, the 4th or 5th seed right now? I mean, it's kind of crazy at how this
I'm eating
season,
crow. I'm eating crow.
Exactly. It's kind of crazy at how this season's going. You know, Damian Lillard's playing well, and Portland's sitting in the 6th seed right now, or 5th seed, whatever it is.
Fifth as we speak.
Well, there you go.
3 games over 500, but
3 games over
still,
500, and McCollum and Nurkic have been out for a long period of time.
Yeah, good for them. But it also has a lot to do, and I don't want to jump, but it also has a lot to do with the other teams that are sort of struggling, right?
Yeah, well,
and
for sure.
I don't think that anybody would have thought that the Pelicans maybe, but I think that they're underachieving. The Dallas Mavericks have been a huge disappointment.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. The Memphis Grizzlies are basically at 500, but I think they play the least amount of games because of COVID, if I'm not mistaken, right? So they're hard to read right now. So we'll put them on the side and come back maybe in late February, early March. So a lot of things are happening, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, and we were talking just before we go on to one more last Raptor topic. The Raptor schedule coming up, I mean, it's going to be a little bit hectic, a little bit tougher. You know, they got the 76ers, they got, they got the Celtics again. It's a tough schedule coming up. So it's make or break right now in terms of this first half, right?
Yeah, the Bucks.
You know, keeping on with just the Raptors, one last topic before we end off all Raptor talk, I guess. Masai Ujiri. We've discussed this topic prior to this.
Yeah.
And, you know, back when they won the NBA title, the cop said that Masai Ujiri pushed them and on all this stuff and sued him.
Trash.
Right? Just the other day, the cop dropped the suit. And, you know, and I said it and I put it on our Instagram story the other day. And the Raptors said he was vindicated and as he should be. He should have never had to have been vindicated. He should have never had to have been vindicated. He did nothing wrong, and he was singled out because of the color of his skin. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm getting tired of talking about it, and I'm getting tired of hearing about it. And at the end of the day, the cop was wrong. The cop knew he was wrong. So instead of owning up to what he did and what happened, he decided to blame somebody else. And put the onus on somebody else, an innocent person, and he ended up getting caught for it and he paid for it because at the end of the day, he looks like the idiot, and Masai Ujiri looks like the saint in a sense because he comes out looking like he was racially profiled, and that's what he was. Yeah.
I first of all, I don't want to get too deep on this, but I find it fitting that finally vindication on Black History Month to a successful African-American happens, number one, okay? Or an African man or a Black man, period. Never mind American or whatever the case is, because he is a native of Africa. And then as far as the other stuff, I completely agree with you in the sense of he should have never been, we shouldn't even be talking about this in the sense of he shouldn't have gone through this, because I think what upsets me the most, in addition to everything that happened, right, it's for Masai, and I don't know him. We don't know him. I wish we did, but seems like a nice guy. It's the moment that was taken away from him.
Exactly.
And every time I see that video, right, the overhead shot and the shot of the what do you call it, from the camera over here and the chest or whatever it is, right? And then when Masai is coming down the aisle and Lowry says, we're over here, right? And that's in my head. What I picture the most is Masai's expression of just like anger, fear, just confusion. And that was his moment. The team that he helped build, that basically just accomplished the highest of the highest thing that you can accomplish in the NBA, what they all play for, what they work for and they build for. And that one individual, that racist prick, I'm just going to say it, that racist prick took it away from him.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the part that sucks. And take away the money that Masai makes, take away everything else. Like, just picture this, like, you're in your daughter's graduation or your best friends or your cousins or whatever. And then somebody just pulls you aside and said, you're guilty of doing something that you never did.
Yeah.
And that's your moment, right? You were going up there to celebrate somebody else's accomplishments in addition to yours. And then somebody took it away from him. Good for him. I'm glad that he's vindicated. That cop can go F himself. I understand that he's now in an administrative job or whatever the case is. I don't even know what the frick that means.
Shouldn't have a
It
job.
was a waste of time and should have never been taken away from Masai Ujiri. So let's move on. Trash.
Yeah. And, after getting off that topic, and I got one more thing, just Raptor fans. Get off Pascal Siakam's back. Enough's enough.
Oh, so he's not getting traded. See, now why you have to trigger me? So he's not getting traded anymore.
I mean,
right?
I never wanted him to be traded.
Oh, okay.
I never wanted him to be traded.
Okay.
Obviously he wasn't performing to the level that he was supposed to. And I still think his contract for what he was able, is still a little bit too high. But at the end of the day, that's what his contract is, and he's got to play to his potential. But
what's he supposed to say? No.
Exactly.
Don't pay me.
Exactly. He looks like he's got his confidence back. He's going to the basket a little bit more.
Yep.
He's averaging 24 points over his last 5 games. He's got 16 points tonight. Mm-hmm. So he's already on pace to get over 20 points again for the third game or fourth game in the last 6. So, I mean, get off his back. Leave him alone. Let him play the game. And at the end of the season, we'll see what happens.
Or everybody who shit on him, go ahead and give back the Pascal Siakam jerseys and donate them.
Well, true. Exactly. For sure.
There you go. It's okay to disagree and it's okay to criticize players, but everything that was a lot of nonsense was said, I'm not going to repeat, and gets me really heated.
Yeah.
Was not necessary. And we on this podcast, including Clark, who's not here with us today, said that Pascal Siakam needs to be better. Pascal Siakam was not playing up to his potential, right? But there was nothing else other than that. And people got personal. And a lot of Raptor fans, and I don't think they're even Raptor fans. I think that those are people that are just going to Proline and pissed off because they lost some bets.
Yeah.
And they look at the box score and there's a lot of good things that are, sometimes what you need to do is go through tough times to get better. That's life, right? So, and this guy he didn't go to, a Division I school. He didn't go to Duke. He didn't go to, Wake Forest or anything like that. He wasn't a top 5 recruit. This guy is a guy who has played basketball for maybe 10 years now. That's not a long time, right? He's a late bloomer, and he's learning how to play the game. And yes, he has to get better. There's a lot of areas that he needs to improve. But the slander, man, it was a bit much. And
I agree. I 100% agree with you.
It was excessive.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to throw it in there. Just, get off his back, leave him
alone.
Why you
got me all heated, bro? Like, I was doing fine. Like, what the hell? Move on to the next topic.
Next topic, you're going to be heated again.
Oh, what is it?
We got to talk about those Brooklyn Nets.
Brooklyn,
right? Kyrie Irving came out into the media the other day and made his stupid comments. I guess we'll say, I'm not even going to say stupid. It's stupid because that's all he does is talk stupidness. And I've said it before. He doesn't take blame for anything, that guy.
Right.
When he was in Boston, when he was in Cleveland, now in Brooklyn, it's always somebody else. Always somebody else with this guy. So I'm going to read you the quote.
Please do.
Right? So the quote
Please do as I take back this.
This was his, on the Nets' recent struggles. He didn't blame the players. Didn't do any of that. He blamed everything else. So, and I quote, this is what he said: "We are the team that the NBA put the most games on. We're the team that gets someone taken out during COVID during the games. Well, yeah, okay. We're the team that has to deal with the refs. We're the team that is literally battling against so many odds that at this point, not even a reason to continue to comment on it. Literally, cry me a river, join the club, because at the end of the day, the Nets get away with a lot more than most other teams get away with. They got 3 goddamn superstars on their team.
Whoa.
And 2 of those 3 superstars complain and cry. 2 of them complain and cry all the time. You're going to sit there and tell me that a player got taken out of a COVID game during COVID. Okay, they shouldn't have let him play in the first place.
True.
Shouldn't have let him play in the first place, so he should have never been able to play. Second of all, your ref comment that you make, everybody has to deal with the goddamn refs.
Yeah.
The Raptors
enter the chat.
Exactly. The Raptors the other day got what? Lowry got elbowed in the face, no call, nothing. Right? And they're allowed to say whatever they want. He's allowed to say whatever he wants and nothing gets happened. Trae Young yesterday got pissed off at the referee. I mean, obviously I don't condone what he did and yelling and screaming at the ref's face. He got fined $20,000 for it.
20 grand.
20 grand.
Damn.
But Kyrie Irving won't get fined nothing because Kyrie Irving's allowed to do and say whatever he wants. And I'm just getting tired of hearing Kyrie Irving's name because at the end of the day, all he does is talk shit. That's all he does.
You gonna be okay?
I've got more things to say, but I'll let you go now.
First of all, wow. Let's get Kemba Walker to pay the fine because he's clearly not doing anything with that money.
Right.
Number one. So Trae Young. So send them, just e-transfer to him. Kyrie Irving is a confusing guy, and I think we've had this discussion ad nauseum because I didn't understand. I still don't understand, even when you read it now, what his point is. Historically, right now they're on pace to be one of the worst defensive teams in NBA history. That falls on the players. I think that falls on execution.
Absolutely.
Right? You can talk about Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni. It's like, to me, there's the difference between a reason and an excuse. And to me, there's an excuse for everything right now. There's no reason, right? Yes, we understand the circumstances with Kevin Durant the other day against the Raptors were really crappy, and that's on the NBA, number one.
Yeah.
But everybody's going through, like, put that aside for 1 second. Everybody's going through COVID. Like, COVID is not prevalent only in the state of New Jersey. Oh, excuse me, Brooklyn. Pardon me.
Brooklyn, yeah.
Right? So I don't understand where he's coming from. And the irony of this is almost maybe more of a hypocrisy. The same guy who dipped on his team for 2.5 weeks has the gall to come out and say, well, poor us. Yeah. Well, bro, you weren't saying that when you were partying without a mask with your fam, with all due respect.
Yeah.
Right? This is a very good team. And I still stand by my word, and I may eat crow later on. I feel like I'm eating a lot of crow this year, but that the Brooklyn Nets are built to be in the NBA Finals. And right now, I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know if they need to figure this out. And we've seen this before from the Miami Heat when the big three, were formed. The difference is that they were playing defense at least, and the offense would always be figured out after. I think that they're doing this ass backwards. They're playing offense and trying to figure out the defense later. The problem with the Brooklyn Nets is, and I would have respected Kyrie if he said this, the depth is not good enough, right? They're not playing good enough defense for what they have right now, and they need to figure that out. But what he did was blame everybody else. He didn't correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know if you want to just take a glance at the quote as I'm yapping there. Did he say anything about, I need to play better, I need to play better defense, I need to be a better leader, more of a voice? Probably not. No. For a guy that always talks about himself, this should have been the one chance that he had to do that, but to take responsibility, right? This is a good team. Like, this is a historically stacked team, but they're front-loaded. And that's the problem, right? But that's on the management team. That's on, on everybody else's jobs to do. Like, what they need to do is just go out there and play and worry about the rest later. So if the Nets are allowing, 100 points a game, 90, like, you know what, you can live with that. And that's fine because you can figure that out because the offense is historically great. And that's the funny part. They are so polar opposite. I don't know what Nets team is going to come out. Like, didn't they just get their ass handed by Detroit?
Yeah.
Detroit. Like, Detroit what? Like, come on. Like,
Detroit has what, 6 wins?
Like, and I know anybody on any given day can beat anybody, but that's inexcusable for that. Like that. Can you imagine that shit going down with LeBron and the Lakers?
No, not a chance.
Did you see what happened in the beginning of the season? I think it was game 3 or 4 where the Lakers got beat by somebody. I forget who it was. Somebody, please let me know. And AD came out and ripped everybody, including himself, that they're not playing good enough. And what they do, they ripped off like 8 in a row.
Yeah. No, man, it's
accountability, man. That's what it is.
And that's the thing. They're not trying to be held accountable for the way they're playing the game. At the end of the day, I'm gonna steal a line from Stephen A. Smith when he went in on Kwame when he went in on Kwame Brown way back in the day.
Did you just make a Kwame Brown reference?
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Right, I'm gonna call them. They're bona fide scrubs on the defensive end. Like They're absolutely horrible. They can't play defense if their life depended on it. They're 27th in the league in defensive rating, but 3rd in the league in offensive rating. Let's score the basket, but who gives a crap about defense? We don't need to stop. We'll just score 147 points. Like, you can't win games like that. If you think you're going to beat the Lakers or the Clippers in the playoffs, even now, you know what? You think you're going to beat the 76ers, the Celtics, by scoring 147 points and allowing them to score 140, and you're going to win the series? You got another thing coming for you, because that ain't going to happen. You ain't
right.
going
I
to
think
win.
right now they're relying on their talent, and that's the problem.
They're relying on the scoring of those 3 guys,
right.
And yeah, maybe it's helping them to win games here and there. Sure. But at the end of the day, that's not going to help you in a 7-game series.
Mm-mm.
You need to play good defense. And, I'll make a comparison to the other side of the spectrum in terms of, I talked about them a couple of weeks ago, the Utah Jazz. Many people are already talking about them. They won't make it past the second round and all this stuff, which could happen. Utah chokes in the playoffs. We get it. But they're one of the best offensive rating teams, one of the best defensive rating teams, which means they're getting it done on both ends of the floor. That's what you need in the playoffs. You need to be able to get it done on both ends of the floor. And when you're not getting it done on one end of the floor, you need to be able to get it done on the other. If the Nets aren't hitting shots and they ain't stopping the other team, well, that's a recipe for a loss right there. You ain't going to win the game. So unless they fix their defense, they ain't making it past the second round themselves.
And
right now.
Insane to think.
Well, I'm telling you, it's just you look at it in the sense of, they could turn it around 100%. I mean, they're only getting together. They've only been together for a month now, which whatever, that's okay. Kyrie Irving was away for 2 weeks for his little sabbatical that he needed.
Sabbatical. So
right?
Kwame Brown and sabbatical.
Right. James Harden was
on his bad self.
James Harden was on his sabbatical during training camp and exhibition games when he was with Houston.
At Wing Machine.
Right, exactly. So it's like they, not that they don't care. I guess it's kind of like this season is kind of like whatever happens for them.
Listen, that's the wrong attitude to have. I think you have to create good habits early.
Yeah.
Right. And I understand. Listen, I understand the talent. I understand they have 3 of the top 10 best players in the world.
Yeah.
There's nobody's denying that. But what they did to get James Harden was sacrifice their depth. Mm-hmm. And by sacrificing their depth, they also sacrifice their defense.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not blaming this on Harden by any stretch of the imagination. They did what they had to do. They've gone all in. Right. They've gone all in. But at the same time, they have to get it together, because they're going to look up one day in, May or whatever it is, and they're going to be down 3-2 in a series. Right. Yeah. And maybe 4-2 as a final. And then they're going to realize what the hell happened.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, we allowed 120 points a game. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Kevin Durant may have gone off for 44 a game, but it doesn't matter because he couldn't stop the nosebleed.
Yeah. Right? I mean, so the 3 of them could have combined for 120 points, but I mean, we lost 140 to 120. So
right.
They could put up however many points they want at the end of the day. If you're not stopping them, you're not going to win. You're not going to win very many games if you're not stopping the other team from scoring. I'm just trying to see what their opponent's stats are in terms of field goal percentage this season. I mean, I think it's at 45%, or 46% on field goal percentage this season. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. You're allowing teams to shoot almost close to 50% or going closer to 50% in field goal percentage this season. That's absolutely horrible. But I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. There's still a long ways to go in this season. There's that little break that they're possibly going to have an all-star game or whatever it is in between that. So, I mean, we'll stop talking about the Nets and go into all-star break. We've been talking about this for the last few weeks, since they announced that they were going to probably have an all-star game. And I know you're a proponent for them not playing.
Right.
In the All-Star game. So, I mean, my question to you, and I know what your answer is more likely going to be, but should they be playing in the All-Star game? Should there be an All-Star game this season?
No. Yeah. No, there shouldn't be. And I think you and I are probably going to disagree on this. I understand why, unless you've changed your mind since the last time we talked, right, about this particular topic. But
yeah,
my issue is a little bit more not about the entertainment value, because you can argue about, this, that, and the other, but do we need it?
Yeah.
During a pandemic?
No.
Right? So you can go both ways here. The reason that we need it is because it is a pandemic and we need some entertainment, and people need to be, just a distraction from the everyday grind, and people working from home. We're doing it. People are doing it. People have lost their jobs. And this is something that the NBA players can come together and say, hey, we want to put up a showcase for you, the best of the best in one place for one night. At the same time, games have been postponed. Guys have been getting sick. Guys have been being taken off mid-game.
Yeah.
Right? So now you're going to ask them,
yep, for
every reason that things are going wrong, to come together to one place for one night. Guys coming in from different cities, right? Who knows what's, listen, they're going to Atlanta, all right? They're not going to, Idaho over here. Like, they're going to Atlanta. You can do your own joke there. I'm not even going to mention Lou Williams. Right?
Oh, I was just about to do it. I was just about to say, don't go get some chicken wings.
I didn't say it, but I'm just saying, you have to trust the players to do the right thing. And I just don't know right now in the mindset of a lot of these players. Like, maybe you can trust a guy like LeBron and
yeah, if
you were to go Freddie VanVleet and et cetera, but, and it's not to say that you're trying to babysit grown ass guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that this is a good time to pause and everybody just chill, go home, relax, or stay wherever the heck you are, and come back in 5, 6, 7 days, whatever the break equals to. Usually equals about 5 or 6 days, whatever it is, right? And that's it. You can still have an all-star, you can still name an all-star team, but symbolic, sort of like what the NFL did with the Pro Bowl, right? There's no Pro Bowl, but guys are named to it. And by the way, let's face it, right? And I don't know if you're going to say this, but I'm just going to say it now. We all know why the NBA All-Star Game is happening.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't need to quote Wu-Tang, which I already did a couple of weeks ago, right? But cash rules everything around me. Cream, hit the money, dollar bill, yo. Yeah. And that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Who's got the game? TNT. What does that mean? That means money for them, right? So there's a pot at the end of the rainbow here that people want to collect. Nobody's saying it out loud, but that's what it is. And let's also face it. You get named to an all-star game. Yeah. I don't know if this is part of it, but I know for a fact that it probably is. You get named to an all-star game, in your contract, there's a bonus that kicks in.
Yep.
Right? Now, there's no reason why you can be named to an all-star game and you don't have to play to cash in. So you can double dip and not even play. But this has to be part of it as well. But I also do think that the TV money is there, and there's an incentive there for the broadcast partners. But I think it's just a little bit too dangerous during these times. Name the all-star team. Have your first, second, third team, your whatever. You don't need to land like whatever it is, and just go on with it. Because from what I understand, you can jump in here now, there's going to be also fans in there, right? Or limited fans at the All-Star game?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I think there will be. And they're having a dunk contest but at halftime and stuff like that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, and I mean, yeah, before when it first started, I was like, my reasoning was because pandemic, it gives some sort of entertainment that fans don't need. But at the end of the day, you look at it, and the more I listen to the players and the more I start agreeing with the players.
Right.
You look at LeBron James, for instance. He's 36 years old. They just won an NBA title. They had 2 months off. First game was on December 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
So
72 days off or something like that, right?
So, exactly. And as he said it, he was looking forward to that 5-day break to kind of recalibrate, get ready for the second half of the season and a possible long playoff run again. And now the NBA is taking that away from those players.
And if you don't show up, I believe it's a fine.
I would assume so. But I mean, at the end of the day, the
fine's a fine.
The fine's a
if
fine.
I'm LeBron, I pay the fine.
It shouldn't. They shouldn't have to be fined for it. That shouldn't happen. But we know that's what will happen if they don't decide to show up. But at the end of the day, it is about money. And Damian Lillard said it the other day that obviously, he doesn't want to play, but it's in their contract.
Right. He said it without saying it, right?
Exactly.
Like, we don't know why we have to play. So if we're playing, great. If we're not, then I'm cool.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he played both sides of it. He was Switzerland on a sense. He was being a little neutral on it. But I mean, and I don't blame him. At the end of the day, you got to look at it at that and see both sides of it. The NBA wants to make money. They lost a ton of money when they shut down.
Yep.
Right? So you got to think about advertisements for the thing, commercials, the money they're going to make off that stuff. You know, fans, if they allow fans, like I said, I don't know. I'm not 100% certain they are. I think they are, but I'm not 100% certain. I mean, they allowed fans to sit courtside in Atlanta, so why not the All-Star game, right? But they're going to make money off of that. Like you said, TNT, the broadcast deals, they're going to make money off that. So jersey sales, stuff, all that stuff, they're going to make money off.
Right.
And the NBA is a business. They need to make money, and they need to make money somehow, right? Or else the players are going to feel it down the road. And Damian Lillard made this comment too, because at the end of the day, if revenue isn't going up, that means money's not coming in, which means salaries are coming down, which means players aren't going to get their salaries that they need, that they want, right? So at the end of the day, there has to be some give and take here. Yeah. And I don't think they should be having it. I agree with you. This year, you know what? Take it off this year. You had the All-Star game. I think they had it last year. Take this year off. Put it to the side. Let the players go home. Rest for their 5 days, whatever it is. Get ready for the second half of the season. Right? And don't force them to come and do what they don't want to do at the end of the day. But I guess we'll see what actually happens. I mean, all signs point to them.
They're going to play.
Having this All-Star game and then playing. But at the end of the day, I'm starting to agree. I'm agreeing with you guys more and more that they shouldn't be having this All-Star game in the middle of a pandemic. No other league is having it. The NHL, the NFL. I don't think we will see what the MLB does because, I mean, theirs isn't until July anyways.
They don't care.
They don't care either, right? But at the end of the day, I guess we'll see what happens when it comes to that. But, yeah, I'm on the same boat as you. I don't think they should be playing.
Yeah. Safety first, man. Safety first.
Exactly. And talking about safety and other things, but national anthems.
Oh, boy.
That has been a topic for the last 4 years. You know, Donald Trump came into the office. You had Colin Kaepernick kneeling, all that stuff during the national anthem and disrespecting the flag and the veterans and all this blah, blah, blah. So the other day, it came to think that the Dallas Mavericks aren't playing the national anthem. Now the NBA is saying that every team has to play the national anthem, especially with more and more fans coming to the games, right? So, I mean, I'd like to hear what your take on this is and the anthem debate and all this stuff.
This might be an unpopular take, but I'm going to go for it anyway. So don't all you guys get mad at me at the same time. Why do we even play the national anthem during a sporting event? Like, if you think about it, right? Yes, I know they're playing in the United States of America and Canada, respectively, for the one team, etc. But the NBA is a global game. So if you're going to do the national anthem, shouldn't you do the national anthem for when? Okay, so if we're playing in Dallas, shouldn't you do the national anthem for Slovenia? Right? Like, is Luka Doncic not Slovenian? Okay, shouldn't do it, right? So, should we do the one national anthem for Spain if Ricky Rubio's in the building? Yeah. Right. At the end of the day, my point is this: the national anthem has become a thing which nobody knows where it started. I don't know why it started, and here I'm going to do a crossover. We're doing Allen Iverson here. I read an article the other day, and somebody commented that the NBA should not take away from the national anthem because it's a patriotic thing, it's an exciting thing. And the guy who was talking was a Blackhawks fan. And I don't know if you know where I'm going with this. Yeah. So anybody who's been a Blackhawks fan or watched any Hawks game, whether it was the United Center or the old Chicago Stadium, knows that the national anthem was the thing that they did. Yeah. Right. I think it was after the Gulf War. Right. I think they're playing Pittsburgh or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was a thing. And it just became a thing. Right. After 9/11, the Yankee Stadium, they played God Bless America, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But nobody's been able to actually describe to me, and maybe somebody knows, and hit us up on Instagram or on YouTube or on our website. Let us know what is exactly the reason. Because if it's a multicultural game, if there's so many blends of cultural and stuff like that, so why are we playing one or two national anthems because of Canada. What impact does that have in the game? I don't understand it. I don't personally don't agree with it. To me, my experience at the game, and it's funny because I'll be the first one to stand up for the national anthem. It's my thing. Like, I have to get there before the national anthem, but it's more of a routine thing.
Yeah.
But if they don't play the national anthem, like, what am I going to do? Leave?
No, I mean, I totally agree with you. At the end of the day, I mean, obviously we know it's patriotism and that's what it's for. I mean, they play it for the country.
And sorry, before you go on, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be disrespectful to
Yeah.
the anthem, respectively, whether it's Canada, or the Americans. I just don't understand what the reason is at a sporting event.
Yeah, and I think that's just the main thing. It's just something that's been done, but it's been politicized. The national anthem has been politicized. I don't think it was done prior to Donald Trump coming into office. In all honesty, I don't think there was very many people that were kneeling or there were any talks about the national anthem.
Right.
And I'm not tying it into him. I'm not saying it's all his fault, and I'm obviously not. None of that stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it all started when Colin Kaepernick kneeled.
Right. Yeah.
And Donald Trump got pissed
Sure.
off at it. Right? And that's where this national anthem debate came, and that people don't want to stand for the national anthem, and people say they should, and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, to me, a national anthem, whether I'm standing, sitting, I'm still from that country. I still take pride in my country. You know what I mean? I'm not disrespecting the veterans. At the end of the day, I think both of us can agree we thank them for their services. Because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have the liberties, the freedom that we do. But at the end of the day, when I go to Toronto FC games, in a sense, like obviously, we're both soccer. We both like soccer. We're both soccer guys too. Toronto FC, I enjoy going to the TFC games and the national anthem because, the singer allows the fans to sing it, right?
Right.
Right. And that kind of correlates back to your Chicago Blackhawks statement there, because like my girlfriend's a huge Blackhawks fan. So, and they're very like into
they stand up during the anthem and clap through the entire thing, right?
Exactly. They're huge into the national anthem there, right? And that's what I think a lot of it has to do with. There's a lot of patriots, a lot of true patriots in terms of people that love the national anthem, love the country that they're from. But I mean, at the end of the day, the national anthem doesn't determine if you love a country or not,
no,
in my opinion. So playing the national anthem or standing for the national anthem or whatever it is shouldn't be the be all end all in any conversation. That's just my take on it. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I don't know. Maybe the people can tell us, and when you watch and make the comments, which we love comments. So bring it on.
Exactly.
Like I said, and this is not us being lack of disrespecting patriotism or anything like that, right? But it's kind of funny, you have the right freedom of speech until you say something that somebody doesn't agree with, and you shouldn't say it, right? So to me, it has no impact. Like, I can give you a pass if you're playing a world event, i.e. World Cup, right? And two countries are playing each other, right? So if it's the World Cup and the United States is playing Brazil or in soccer or in whatever the case is, okay, we can have a separate discussion about that.
Yeah.
But these teams pretty much play each other every other game, especially during the pandemic. It's back to back. And I know that, and I heard this on a radio show. I'm not going to name it because the guy's a clown anyways. But, some guys use that to meditate, that time to meditate. Not actually, and he mentioned himself, he's like, I don't really stand there and sing and think about my country. I'm actually using that time to just, breathe in and breathe out and meditate. And you see it. I don't know if watch either hockey or soccer, whatever it is. You see some guys with their eyes closed and sort of going back and forth, and they're trying to play their game in their head, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, again, what's the impact here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. So I mean, this subject will be something that'll be debated for a long time, and it's not going to have an answer, a right or wrong answer. I don't think it's not going to have an answer as to what's going to happen anytime soon. So it's going to be talked about for a while. we got one more topic to discuss, so to speak, and it's been a topic that we've discussed over the last couple of weeks when Mr. Shaquille O'Neal went on national TV and basically called out Donovan Mitchell in an interview. So again, the other day, he made another comment that he would take Russell Westbrook over Donovan Mitchell. And my question is, what does Shaq have against Donovan Mitchell? Like, what is his beef with Donovan Mitchell? Like, I have no clue what his beef with the Utah Jazz are, and with Donovan Mitchell, so to speak.
It's funny because I personally like Shaq. He's obviously a Hall of Famer and one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant, big men I've ever seen play. This one's a weird take for me because I understand the purpose of what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
I just don't agree of how he's doing it. And this is not about me being soft and, this soft culture and blah, blah, blah. It's not that. Donovan Mitchell's a very good player. And I think that you and I, when we actually had this discussion this week, maybe somebody will disagree with us. He's not elite, at least not yet. So the point of Shaq's motivation or tough love is that Donovan Mitchell needs to raise his game up. And we just talked about it. Regular season don't matter. What did Kawhi say a couple of years ago? Regular season is a dress rehearsal, right? So if you're dropping 35, 40 points in the regular season, it's great. It's cute. It's great. That's fine. You got to perform in the playoffs. So I understand the mindset of Shaq trying to fire up this kid to be better when it counts. Right, because Donovan Mitchell can win the MVP and they can be swept in the first round.
Yeah.
Right, and we've seen this happen before. Right, I just don't know what has irked him to just go after him. I think he needs to tone it down a bit. I think that Donovan Mitchell has a lot of improvement to do. I completely agree with that. I don't think he's elite. I completely agree with that. He's got to do everything. If you're elite, you do all phases of the game. Right, you defend, you score. If you're not scoring, you rebound. How do you impact the game? That's what makes you elite, right? And he's a scorer. He's a volume guy, right? So that's what in my opinion, doesn't make him elite. But his slander is a bit much. I think he needs to tone it down. I love Shaq and I know what he's trying to do, but I don't agree with the approach. And maybe something happened in Utah with Shaq. I don't know. Maybe he had some bad barbecue chicken. I have no idea what happened there, but like he went at him hard. And I got to give Donovan Mitchell credit for just, doing his thing, staying calm, because it's easy. Can you imagine if that was Kyrie Irving and Shaq?
Yeah.
Right? Like this would go off, right? So I don't know. It's a weird take. I understand trying to motivate him, but maybe not in this particular matter.
Yeah, and I mean, Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs last year, and that's my thing on it, is Donovan Mitchell last year was part of the reason why Utah jumped out to a 3-0 lead.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or 3-1 lead in that series. You look at his point totals in that series. He averaged 36 a game. He had 57, a 30, a 20, a 51, a 30, a 44, and a 22. Yeah, 22 was the game where the final game and he had 9 turnovers in that game, which obviously when the game's on the line, that matters. And that's one of his big drawbacks is he turns the ball over a ton.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell. He turns it over a ton. You can't have 9 turnovers in a Game 7 playoff clinching game at the end of the day. So I get where Shaq's coming from at the end of the day, but Donovan Mitchell is an elite level player. He's got all the talent in the world to become one of the best players in the NBA.
Are you saying, sorry, before you continue,
Yeah.
he elite or is he has potential to be elite?
No, I think
I don't think he's elite.
I think he's elite. I think he's an elite level player. I mean, obviously, I think there's different levels of elite, different tiers of elite. In my opinion, I think obviously he's not at that upper echelon of elite level players, but I think he's in that ilk where he's on the cusp of reaching. Becoming a star in a sense. In my opinion, that's just my take on it. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, he's an efficient shooter. doesn't pass the ball as well as he should for a point guard. But if the game's on the line, Donovan Mitchell is one of those guys that I want to have the ball in his hand at the end of the game. You look at the other night, I think they beat Phoenix. I can't remember who they beat, but he hit the game winner, right? At the end, he hit the game winner over, I think it was Boston. I think it was over Boston. He hit the game winner. Good. Over Jason Tatum or whatever it was.
Good. F Boston.
Right? Exactly, yeah. Right? He hit the game winner. He had 36 points that game. But that's what he needs to do. But you said it. Playoffs is when it matters the most. And if the rest of his team isn't stepping up and they choke after being up 3-1 in a series, you're going to get hate. You're going to get hate. People are going to say, okay, well, you don't have what it takes to get it done in the playoffs.
Right. But don't the Utah Jazz remind you of what the Toronto Raptors were 4 or 5 years ago? Like, completely sometimes just roll over opponents in the regular season, right? Guys are making shots, game winners, excitement, this and that. And when it comes to the playoffs, sometimes it was one and done or second or third round. And this is, I think, what Shaq is trying to say is if you're going to do it in the regular season, you got to step it up. And I understand last year was phenomenal for Donovan Mitchell, right? But again, it's the NBA to me, maybe more than any other league, maybe the NFL second, it's about the rings. It's about the end result, right? Because you have star players can impact the game in so many different levels. And I think that Shaq is trying to imply that he hasn't done it all the way yet. But Donovan Mitchell is also not 35.
No. Yeah, exactly.
So let's just pump the brakes there for a second.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, but, you mentioned the Raptors and comparing them to the Raptors. You know who they remind me of? The Atlanta Hawks from a couple seasons ago.
That's with Mark's boy, Budenholzer.
Yeah, right. Remember when they had Kyle Korver and Horford and they
saw Joe.
Right. They ran roughshod through the Eastern Conference that season. Finished
60 games, steady wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
First in the East, back-to-back years, I think it was. And they went into the first round or second round of the playoffs and got bounced easy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the Utah Jazz remind me of. They have the talent. They have the team to be able to get over the hump. But to get over that hump, you have to go through LeBron James and the Lakers, Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. Those are the teams you have to go through to get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I agree.
And don't get me wrong, this season the Utah Jazz are playing out of this world.
Yeah,
got 6 guys averaging double figures. Jordan Clarkson, I think he's running away with 6 Men of the Year this season. He's playing amazing. Rudy Gobert's averaging 16 and 15 on the season.
Patient zero.
Right? Patient zero. They have the talent. They have the talent to definitely make a run this season. Mike Conley, another guy.
He's balling, man.
And that's the thing. And there's a lot of we talk about underrated players. He's one of the most underrated players to me. Yeah. He's one of the most consistent players when he's on there. When he was with Memphis, he was a consistent player. Yeah, maybe last year he wasn't as consistent as he normally is.
He's hurt.
But this year he's back. And he's playing consistently again. And he's providing them with a point guard that they needed. And I get what Shaq is doing, and he's trying to motivate them and trying to push them because he likes Donovan Mitchell. He sees the potential in Donovan Mitchell that you see, I see, everybody sees. Donovan Mitchell just needs to push himself over that line. And I think he will eventually get there. He's still young. He's only been in the season for 4 seasons. Yeah. He's got a lot of time to grow and to become one of those superstar players, so to speak, in that category. But I guess we'll see what happens and how pissed off Shaq is and how much more crap talking he goes against Donovan Mitchell.
Well, this is why they play the games, right? We're going to have to wait and see until the playoffs. And if Shaq is proven right, if he's right, we're never going to hear the end of it. But
yeah, exactly.
We'll see what happens, man. The regular season, again, it's a dress rehearsal for those good teams that want to go to the next level, right? So if you're a good team, you don't worry about all those things. You just want to stay healthy. You play consistent. and then we'll see what happens. But the Utah Jazz are, again, my only concern before we go is you always wonder if the Utah Jazz have peaked too soon.
Yep.
And we just saw an example of a team last weekend in a different sport that peaked late and won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
No, I agree with you. And I mean, I think their schedule over the next 6 to 7 games is going to be a huge selling point on if they could be able to make it. You know, like I said before this podcast started, they got the Bucks, Sixers, Clippers, Heat, the Lakers. There's a lot of tough teams in there. So I guess we'll see what happens, and it'll be a telling stretch over the next 6 to 7 games for the Utah Jazz.
We'll be talking some Jazz in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned.
Yeah, and if you guys are seeing our videos on YouTube and you're following us on Instagram or whatever, and you're not subscribed to our YouTube page, go to our videos, click the little subscribe button. That's all you gotta do. Just click the subscribe button.
Shit.
Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, wherever you gotta follow us. We're there. We're bringing all the stories, news.
We're all over the place, man.
Exactly.
We're going to have billboards. So jump on the bandwagon. Jump on the bandwagon right now. And if there's anything that you guys want us to talk about as well, hit us up. Send us a message on the TikTok machine and the Instagram and all that. You can tell how old I am, right? But no, honestly.
Maybe we'll have to – maybe one day we'll have to do like an Instagram live for our followers, and see what – right? And see what happens.
Maybe we'll get Shaq on or Kenny Smith or something.
Well, maybe just me and you and Mark for right now.
Or us.
Right. Yeah, and then maybe we'll be able to get some people and stuff to come in and ask us questions, and we answer questions on Instagram Live. We
love to hear from you, though. We love to hear from you.
Exactly.
We appreciate the support.
Exactly. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Basketball Lab podcast. Thanks for joining us this week on the Basketball Lab podcast. Make sure to follow us on our social media. You could follow us on Instagram and Twitter at The B-Ball Lab. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Basketball Lab Podcast, and you could also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music.